So on this channel, I talk about practical non-duality. Now I think it's time for us to ask the question, does anybody actually need non-duality? Because what I see in others and in myself is that we listen to non-duality teachers, we absorb some of the concepts, and perhaps it starts to create inner shifts in us, but then we're still left seeking. So you go to satsang, perhaps with a teacher who emanates real calm and peace and the bliss of Satchitananda. They say things to you that you don't quite understand, and then in the moment you're picking up their energy, so you feel that peace and bliss. But when you go home, things fall to pieces, and it's very hard to maintain that. And the feeling arises that you should maintain that bliss. So I question whether one needs full non-duality, because also another thing is, if you look at some of the non-duality teachings, there's a lot of gatekeeping or arguments about what is non-duality and who's pseudo-non-dual and who's neo-Advaita and who's true Advaita. All of that. It can become a bit much. And if you go to the purest view, which is that non-duality, and this is the experience that we're really looking for, which is promises the end of suffering, which is the collapse of the subject and object. Essentially, that's what non-duality is. Subject and object merge. So the I of a true being, is not other than the material of this existence, the world that appears to you. It's just a seeing. It's just one seeing, one experiencing, with no body to experience that. Now, there are teachers also who say, try to be not a separate being. Because that is not true non-duality, is not perceiving things as a separate being. So then you would even maybe talk in passive voice. So what is being experienced here is peace, bliss, but you wouldn't say I. So these things set quite a high standard for us ordinary folks. And my whole argument at this point is that perhaps we don't need that full-blown non-duality. Perhaps it's quite a far reach. It's quite far beyond what our minds and physical brains can actually cope with. And the question really is, do we need it? Is this where humanity is? Is this the next phase in human development? I would argue no. No, it can lead us into traps. For a very, very few who will fall into that naturally, non-dual, it's just self-evident, and obvious. But it's not the next step for humanity. And for most of us even watching this. For me, I had a shocking non-dual experience 25 years ago, and I didn't know what it was at that time. I turned my life upside down in a very troubling way. And it took years before I even met the first non-dual book, and I could begin to make sense of what was happening and begin integration. So the integration has taken me, 25 years. And even then, I cannot always say that I am coming from emptiness, that there's no person here. Part of me knows, the deeper knowing knows there's no person, but the experiential, the real, what's real? Always ask what's real. So part of this is coming to what's real and witnessing what is real. So if what is real is that you're showing up as a person, then that must be integrated into our practice. Some non-dual teachers also say, quite rightly perhaps, there's no practice. Yes, if you fall into it and that if it wipes out your mind like that, no practice. But for other people, there's a practice. So I'm aiming here more at those for whom non-duality is more of a practice. And the practice can be really helpful, because this is what I also call the scenic trip to enlightenment. It's not the sudden quick fall. We go step by step. And then you can also lay out a map of how it works. What I feel that humanity rather is aiming for, even at the forefront of spiritual development, is more like presence, more like the awareness of I am. Anybody now can rest in I am. It's your most basic experience, and the only thing that you know is true is I am, that you exist, and you know that this is self-evident. So purists would say this is not quite non-dual, but I say to hell, because when you rest as I am, it's essentially resting as the witness in what I would assign as the causal domain, the causal body. But that is enough to find peace. That is enough to find the causeless joy and peace and wisdom in the midst of life exactly as it is. So picture this now. We have 4 bodies: gross, subtle, causal, great causal, or non-dual. In the gross body, you're just you firmly believe you're this person, this body with a name, address. Subtle, you begin more spiritual experiences. You believe you're a soul, your spiritual being, you do psychological work. All very beautiful stuff. Law of attraction. Very nice. So that is where people are waking up to. But there's another level beyond that, which is still approachable. And this is where I think, if you're following non-duality channels, this is probably where you are at. You're at the border from subtle into causal. And the causal is this I am. And it's the witness consciousness. Witness. So it's a still witnessing of what is. And as you witness what is, without trying to fix it, make it different, the relief of settling into, not having to fix, not having to do anything different, that relief is a peace, and that peace expands. And that is the peace of your being, That, my friends, I think is all we really need. That will take you a long way. And you do not need to then worry that I still seem to be showing up as a separate person. I still feel there's a me. Yes, there will, because it's the I am. The I am of causal is still the witness. So there's still a slight identification. It's what you could say a point of view. But it's so lightly held as to be almost not there. So I'd call this more like a gentle non-dual. It's non-dual aligned. Because when you forget that you are there as a separate being, in those moments, it is non-dual. You might not have the full collapse of subject and object, but who really cares for that? That's not something we should all aim at. That's for the 0.1%, or even less. One can hurt oneself by trying to reach that, because that's only the mind that will try to reach that. But you can inquire into, okay, in this moment, am I coming through as my body, as my personality, or am I just witness? And the witnessing is peace. So I am. Fall back into the I am. And then you notice the peace there. And that is wisdom. And then if you want to explore even further, if you want to go to the non-dual body, from I am, think of I am as almost in front of you. It's like a felt presence. I am. Being. But if you withdraw attention through the I of I am, at the top of the causal, and you rest in just the pure sensation of the witnessing, of knowing. Let's say it's knowing. So this experience of I am is known, and you withdraw attention from presence to what is the sensation of knowing itself, pure knowing, without reference to anything in the world. Now you're showing up as I, rather than I am. So that's almost how one eases into that non-dual body. But don't expect sudden collapse of subject and object. What's more likely is that you stop caring about that. You just notice things arise by themselves, and you let more and more go. And you can rest more into that I, which is purely the texture of knowing. And knowing, begin with the knowing of your own existence, I am. That has still got a felt presence to it, into the world. But what is aware even of that I am is knowing itself. And that's what I call the texture of knowing, because it feels like all you have is a texture. It's like a substance of knowing. It doesn't refer to any objects. So the more you can come from that, the more you will ingrain peace. I also caution people who are on the non-dual trail is to just engage in a practice, because it can take a practice to return attention to the I am. It's not a sudden fall. Some people have it. Eckhart is one good example, but we tend to want to emulate him. Not everybody's going to have that experience. Byron Katie, these people who fall very quickly, like overnight, into non-dual being, and it's permanent. It's very, very, very rare. Mostly it becomes a practice, but then it can become a very fulfilling practice, and it becomes relevant, because God, through you, the I am, wants to experience what is it like to slowly unpick itself from the world of the created world, to choose again and again to focus on I am, to find again the causeless joy in the midst of struggle. So that's the aim. That's where I would aim at, is that causal level where you're letting go of fixing, including your psychological stuff, including all your lovely spiritual journeys. Just let them go for a moment. Stop trying to do anything. And focus on what's happening now. Right now you can do it. What's happening now? In your body, in your energy field, in your mind. What are you aware of at the edge of your awareness, when you let everything be as it is? You might find like a subtle peace. The more you rest into that, the more you choose that, the more real it becomes. And it has the wisdom. It is divine wisdom. And Eckhart says, what is your purpose? People ask, what is my life purpose? He says, your purpose is to be present and to act from there. So everything can be shrunk down to that one statement. Your purpose is to be present and to act from there. Makes it very simple. Choose presence again and again and again. Recognize presence. That's also part of the practice. Recognizing presence. Stop, notice. Around me there's joy. There's a peace. Electrical. Things are moving slow motion a little bit. Ooh. Presence. That's presence. That's all you need. And one day, if subject and object collapse, that's the end of your story, and you'll be here, but you'll be different. But who cares about that stuff? Tell me what you think of this. Tell me what you think we should do as a practice, or no practice at all. And in the meantime, choose presence. And if you like this video, well, like it and subscribe. See you next time.